Well, it only took 7 games, but we've got the bowling shoes dusted off. Your Duke Blue Devils are officially going bowling. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. I'm your host, Brian Kennedy, alongside my co-hosts, Scott Medlin and Josh Cox. And as you can tell, we're down a man when Jamie Holt is celebrating the CFO's birthday. So we didn't want to get in between him and the CFO's birthday. So Jamie, enjoy your time off. As always, we've got our thoughts on the big win against Florida State. The first time, fellas, in 32 years, it finally happened. But before we give our thoughts, we got to hear from the man himself. Here he is, Manny Diaz, post-game.
Good to see everybody. Again, so proud of our team's effort and to come away with a win in that game. The game went about the way we'd expected it to. We knew it was going to be a low-scoring, hard-fought game. Going in, we felt that both defenses would have the advantage in their matchup against the opposing offense. That proved to be true on the night. And I got to give credit to their defense. Florida State's got some real, they got some real guys that I thought played really well up front tonight, and they were a handful for us to block. But the game was won by our defense, creating the turnovers in the first half, the 3 turnovers on the 3 straight possessions, allowed us to take control of the game. And the one thing we really had not had this season that we had talked about was to take control of the game where we can put the opposition offense under pressure. Especially when you're playing with a young quarterback, let alone 2 young quarterbacks on the road, really making their first true road start, and then making them have to play from behind. I think that was a key sequence of events there in the first half. So even though we weren't, we didn't capitalize off the turnovers with all the points that we wish we would have, but we were still able to get a double-digit lead. And then once we had the lead, we never relinquished it. Again, defensively, we're just outstanding. So many great contributions, but overall, I just thought our front and the way that we played and the way that we were relentless getting after the quarterback was just the telling difference in the game up to the last drive. And those last drives, sometimes offense can get momentum, but I just thought it just looked like the guy never had a chance to set up, never had a chance to make 1, 2, 3 and throw. There was always something he's running around, which also means that you're covering on the back end. The quarterback can't get the ball to his first look. So very proud of Jonathan Packey and that defensive staff. I just thought they were phenomenal. They did a phenomenal job shutting down this offense, and not allowing a touchdown was humongous. Offensively, it was going to be a hard day, as I mentioned, but you have to mention the personnel aspect of it as well. Jordan Moore was very limited in this game, and then not having Nicky Dalmolin midway through the week. Nicky suffered a lower leg injury that's going to force him to miss the rest of the season, and that's one of our best players. So really, it felt like we were playing without 3 of our best players on offense today, without Jordan, Jaquez, and Nicky. So a credit to the guys that played, credit to Star Thomas for grinding out every yard that he did, because we needed all of them. And the one thing I will say about our offense, and I believe this is true, is that when the kickoff return, which was very disappointing that we allowed to start the third quarter, we came back and we answered with a field goal drive, which was a big deal. And I do think when they kicked another field goal in the second half to make it 4, and I'm pretty certain that Star had the long run on that, and we got to kick a field goal again to get it back to 7. So I don't think they ever had the ball within a touchdown once we took control, and I think that was a big deal when I go back to what I was talking about keeping the opposition under pressure, which allowed our defense to make those type of plays that won the game. So. Like I said, great to be 6-1, great to be bowl eligible, but in our mind, we're still thinking 2-1 in the league and all to play for going forward. So with that, questions.
And again, that was head coach Manny Diaz giving his thoughts post-game after the Blue Devils finally get the monkey off their back, defeating Florida State 23-16. And fellas, I think you all agree when I say this. This was one that we had circled on our calendars. We've had it circled on our calendars for a very long time. But it took Manny and his staff. They were the ones to finally get it done.
Yeah, as we've said, as I told Manny after the game and told many of the players, it never felt better to be 1-22, against somebody. And so after 22 straight losses, getting that win was incredible. And Brian, I think the lights might go out as I'm sitting here because we didn't pay the light bill.
I was just typing it. It's been 32 years. I figured our sponsors would understand our elation first
I
about the
know.
Florida State win. Let's give our thoughts. We won't
All
forget
right.
the sponsors.
I just
all
didn't
right?
want
So
the lights to go out on
I
our
know.
YouTube.
I didn't want the episode to end. 2 minutes in. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all I had. 1-22 never felt better. Scott.
How about that defense? How about that defense? I mean, if you take the kick return away, that was a doggone good night. Guys were stepping up. I mean, Ozzie was on the crazy train. It was awesome. I mean, just there were so many players that had such great games on the defensive side. I mean, we're talking about people who were getting in that hadn't been in many. Christian Roy was a guy that had a great game. That was somebody that Coach Packey mentioned today. I mean, the defense is actually, I mean, I'm not going to take too far. This is probably one of the best defenses we've seen in my lifetime.
Scott, we got some questions to answer regarding that. So you can't be jumping the gun on those questions.
So that I'll leave it at that. How about that?
And Brian, how about Chandler Rivers? Like, what is it about Florida State, man? Like 2 years in a row with a pick six.
Hey, it was interesting because Chandler not only juked out Tyler because we didn't get the touchdown pick six because he came right at us, but Zach Smith, shout out, he's on Duke's media team. He got a little taken aback, but he got in focus right before. But yeah, Chandler's just got Florida State's number, and it's sad that Chandler will be done with us soon, and Florida State won't come into town anytime soon. But the defense was just stout. I'm not going to say any more because I know we've got the mailbag to get to, but it was just good. Fellas, we've won the bell back. We finally defeated Florida State. Is there anything on the checklist that this team still can do before the end of the year? Win the ACC title game.
Win the ACC. That's the only thing left.
Win the state of North Carolina, too.
We'll win the state.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There's still 2 games left between
and may I say this too, Brian, before we pay the bills?
Yep.
To all of those that listen, and there's a bunch of you, the vast majority of you are like old school Duke football fans. I hope you enjoyed the win Friday night against Florida State. I mean, that is a program win. And I'll be honest with you, the guys that are currently on this roster, I mean, they have a short stint, right? They may have played in Tallahassee last year. They understand the history, but those of you that have been Duke football fans for the last 25 plus years, you have experienced the history, right? You know what it's like to absolutely get the brakes beat off of you, no matter where you're playing, in Tallahassee or in Durham. And then you also know what it's like, to be competitive and just fall short, like Duke has done kind of in the recent history against Florida State. And so, I think it was just awesome for Duke fans, for the Duke program, the staff that, that stays through the coaches, right? The actual Duke football staff. Awesome for everyone, involved in the program to finally get that first win.
And Manny Diaz beating his alma mater. Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
I was going to say one more comment for the record, and I have 2 witnesses. One of them's not here, and the other one I know he's listening. Called the Chandler Rivers pick six. I said we need a pick six right here. Touchdown. Just want to point that out.
He's a prophet.
Hey, and you did get closest to the score prediction with myself. 23-16 was the final, and we both went 24-17. So, yeah. All right, we got to pay the bills now. If we keep going, the lights really might get cut off. So we've got 3 homes to talk about. As always, the first is Matt Bliven, realtor. He's a Durham native. He's been doing our ticket giveaway for every home game. We've got a special one this week. Josh is going to give the details here in just a second. But Matt is ready to tackle any question or help you with any opportunity you might have in the Triangle area, not just the Durham area. He's super knowledgeable in the real estate market trends, and he has all your home needs covered. And if you're interested in buying, selling, investing, or just building in the Triangle, give Matt a call at 919-323-0527 or email him at mlb@nestrealty.com. And we do have another ticket giveaway this week because the Pony Riders are coming into town. So, Josh, what is the giveaway and what does it entail?
All right, so we finalized this with Matt today. This is going to be this will start on Wednesday. I'll say, okay, so this will begin on Wednesday. You got to give us tomorrow to get this set up. But here is what we are going to be doing. We are going to put 4 tickets along with a $50 gift card, 50, baby, a $50 gift card to El Rodeo, and we are going to be dropping that off at El Rodeo. It will be available beginning when they open their doors Wednesday. The first listener to the podcast that goes by El Rodeo on North Duke Street says they listen to the Section 17 podcast and are there to get the tickets. First one to do it, you get the tickets, you get the $50 gift card. We're hoping you'll stay and eat lunch there. Use the $50 gift card to stay and eat lunch, but you can do with that what you will. So beginning Wednesday, when they open, which I believe is at 11 or 11:30 a.m., the tickets will be there along with a $50 gift card. You can get your 4 free tickets. You can eat on the house, courtesy of Matt Bliven. And we really do appreciate Matt and all that he does. But once again, if you just get a home, you're going to need to wear clothes and to be in that home. Just going to let you know that. Depending on your setup, and maybe not. But hey, most people, homefieldapparel.com is your shop, your one-stop shop for vintage gear. I just placed another order at homefieldapparel.com. Got me a couple more Duke items coming in. You know, I've lost a little bit of weight, and I had a really cool Duke sweater, and it was a little bit big on your boy. And so I've repurchased in a smaller size a new Duke sweatshirt that'll be coming in. But that is at homefieldapparel.com. If you use the code Section 17, you will receive 15% off your first order. Now, I gave this a couple of weeks ago. Just going to fill you in on this. If you've already placed an order with homefieldapparel.com and you've already created an account with them, that promo code will not work on your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh orders. You can use promo code DDC10 and receive 10% off of any order. And that will also throw 10% back towards the Durham Devils Club, the NIL collective for Duke Athletics. So anyway, homefieldapparel.com, promo code Section 17 is 15% off your first order. We appreciate them and their partnership with us. And then, you know, if you happen to be wearing a t-shirt in the wintertime, you're going to need to make sure your heat is going in your home. And so Hometown Air comes in at that point. Make sure that your home stays warm in the winter, cool in the summer. Make sure that your units are running efficiently. Make sure that you have them serviced on a regular basis. Hometown Air is your leading HVAC company for residential HVAC work in the Triangle area. They are offering service contracts at a discount to our listeners. If you mention the Section 17 podcast, you'll get $17 off your first year service contract. You can find out more information at hometownairnc.com, or you can call them at 919-568-3212. Lights have stayed on. Thank you to our sponsors.
The trifecta of homes. Home. They have been some great partners this year. Well, we got to move on, fellas. We have another football game, another big one. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, prime time, ACC Network. The ACC Network crew is going to be there. You've got Taylor, you've got Big Eric, who Josh and Scott spoke with earlier today. That'll be our interview here shortly. But if you can make it out, it is Human Being Day, as we like to call it. So tickets are available. Try your best to get out there. There's no excuse. This team is 6-1 and needs all of your support. But as I stated just a few minutes ago, the guys were able to sit down earlier today and catch up with Eric Mac Lain. It's been a while. I don't think we've talked with him since the Clemson game. We saw him at the Clemson game.
That's right.
Labor Day weekend last year, so it was good to catch up with him. And here is the interview that Josh and Scott did earlier today.
And thank you to the ACC Network's Eric Mac Lain for being on with us. You can hear him all over the ACC Network. He's a friend of the pod, been on before, hung out with us there at Wallace Wade before. But Eric, man, thank you so much for coming on the Section 17 podcast.
Yeah, always, brother. Appreciate you. I was out on a walk with my daughter, and I looked at the clock. I was like, "Oh man, I gotta go." So forgive me for not donning the shirt. I'm sorry. I apologize. I should have repped it. It's one of my favorite, one of the softest shirts I have.
See, that's right. We do it right. And I will say, it's okay because the last time you wore it that I saw, it was actually on TV when you were like shooting in Cameron or something,
Yep.
and you had the
Daggone
shirt
right.
on.
Thank
So
you for
you
bringing that up.
were repping the brand.
That's right. I would like to say I am undefeated in Cameron Indoor. Have never
That's right.
lost a one-on-one in there, a horse battle, a three-point contest, whatever it is. I'm undefeated. So we'll see if anybody wants any more smoke Friday when we get there this week.
I was gonna say, maybe Brad Brownell needs to put you on the basketball staff. You know what I mean? If you can continue that
Hey,
record,
back
right?
in my freshman year, that maybe have been a thing. They were not great. He's turned the thing mightily around, and looks like Clemson's gonna have a good little team this year.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We're definitely not here to talk basketball. We're not even sure that Duke plays anything other than football on this podcast. And so
Never seen it.
appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate you coming on. Hey, listen, we'll get right into a couple of questions. Obviously, with your work with the ACC Network this past weekend, you guys took the trip out to Stanford. What was your biggest takeaway, man, from going out there first time, obviously with the ACC Network, being in California? What was your biggest takeaway?
It's a long ass way away. It's a long flight.
It's a long walk. It's a long walk.
6 hours, man. Oh, it's brutal. It's such a long plane ride, but it was cool. I mean, it's pretty area. The California weather was awesome for us. We got some great golf in at a really beautiful, just a little local course, but it was beautiful. Really great location in the mountains. Got to go to see the Warriors Lakers on a Friday night. I mean, that's crazy.
There you go.
Just given the location there.
That was the Bronny James. The Bronny James had he had the 16 or 17 whatever he had that night. So
points explode. Let's do
there
it.
You
Last
go.
game. So that was a lot of fun, man. Really cool. And then it was interesting. I didn't know what to expect. Atmosphere wise was just not good at all. I mean, there's probably 1,000 people in the stadium, maybe. Most of them are SMU fans. It was really, really interesting. And then, I mean, SMU just buries them in a hurry. Should have been a lot worse. I mean, there was kind of a weird fumble that happened that gave them great field position, and kudos to Stanford taking advantage of that. But I mean, they just got the doors blown off of them, and it didn't even look close. Didn't look like it was a conference game. Looked like a team that didn't belong and another team that's fighting for potential championship runs. So that was kind of the interesting thing there. But hey, we did it. We went out there and got it done.
Well, speaking of not being a conference game, 2 years ago, this wouldn't have been a conference game. And so, 2 of the 3 new members, I guess, now that we are 9 weeks into the season, how do you feel so far about the expansion and bringing in Cal, Stanford, and SMU?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing still, but it is what it is, and it happened, right? It's where we are when you look at this entire thing, and I think it goes back to really a lot of what I was saying when the news initially broke. I mean, I thought SMU was going to have a chance. I thought SMU was a great addition, a fantastic addition for a lot of different reasons, but football primarily being the main. And when you look at a team that is a bit, maybe you can't call them that quite. I think you can. I've been there enough. I've seen it. I mean, I think they're a sleeping giant. There is so much money there, man, and so much excitement about football, so much push. And we go to the game a couple of weeks ago against FSU, and it was the most people they've had in the stadium. It was electric. The atmosphere was nuts. The support. We had legends on. Bryson DeChambeau came on our show. Half of the Pony Express with Eric Dickerson, the president, the board of trustees, the AD, booster, like everybody was so thrilled and excited, and made us excited, made us jacked up, to be there. And then they dominated, and they've been dominating. And, if you look at ACC rankings, just based on wins, they have 3 ACC wins. That's the second most, tied with Miami. So they're tied for second, in the ACC right now. They're undefeated in conference play, ranked 22 in the country. Then you got on the other side, a Cal team that is 0-4, and a Stanford team that, has 1 win against Syracuse. And I'm still pulling my hair, which I don't have any left. How the heck did they beat them? How the heck did they beat Syracuse? So, it's one of those things, man, where it's interesting, and it happened, and we are where we are.
Well, the SMU thing, I mean, they are obviously financially stable enough to not even participate in rev share for however long. I mean, they're taking care of their own. They're paying their own way, man. They're paying their own way for sure. Scott, go ahead.
So if the season were to end today, who would get your player of the year and coach of the year in the ACC?
Yeah. Man, it's hard not to it's hard not to say anybody but Cam Ward. I mean, that guy is playing at such a high level. He's number one in the entire country in passing yards. He might be number one in touchdowns as well. I mean, he is so electric. Has the number one QBR in college football. He's just amazing. He really is. And if you go back and watch this past game, I mean, it seems like every game, there's a billion highlights. But this game in particular, I'm just sitting back watching again, and I'm just like, I don't even remember seeing this. What the heck is he doing? He's so electric, so special. I mean, truly like Patrick Mahomes, the creativity piece of it. But then it's even like another level because of the confidence in the pocket. Reminds me a lot of Joe Burrow, his last year at LSU, like just the ownership, knowing, where his free guys are. So he knows where to move, knowing where his routes are, so he knows where to throw the ball immediately. It's really, really impressive to see. He has all the skills in the toolbox. And, I think we've been saying it probably since week one, but I mean, this guy's going to be in New York. I think he's going to win it just because of the longevity and seeing who he plays. And, when you talk about the potential run that they're going to go on, the brand of Miami, he's playing at a super, super high level. And then when you look at coaches, man, it would be hard not to give it to Pat Narduzzi. I mean, a team that we had no expectation from. I mean, I thought they'd win 4 games, maybe, and that was a big maybe. And here they are sitting undefeated, ranked in the country, and playing at a super high level. You got a quarterback that can push the ball downfield that we didn't even know was in consideration for being a starter, let alone being an absolute baller. Probably going to end up being the newcomer of the year in the ACC this year. And then the defense is getting better and doing their thing. Certainly not the typical defense that you expect to see from Pittsburgh. But because of that offense, man, they're firing on all cylinders. So you've got, a guy that's been there for a long time and a guy brand new to the league kind of sweeping those awards.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And what's crazy about Cam Ward's season is that it's overshadowing Cade Klubnik, who any other year you would be saying, like, look at that guy's numbers. Like, there's no way this guy's not going to get player of the year in the ACC, right? I mean, it's just crazy to think about just how good Cam Ward has been.
No, there's no doubt about it.
Little shout out to your boys there, Clemson. Little shout out.
My man, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And, maybe if they want to just hold the voting until after the ACC championship game, then you give it to the winning QB. Who knows?
There you go. There you go.
It's
Well,
fair.
yeah, for sure. Well, look, speaking of SMU, we've been talking about them early. They do come to Durham. This Saturday. I know you and the crew from the ACC Network will be in Wallace Wade Stadium. We'll be in Durham for the weekend, and so looking forward to having you guys. But going to ask a couple of questions specifically about this upcoming game. Obviously, both teams come in at 6-1. Arguably, different paths for sure to get to 6-1. And so just kind of getting your thoughts, I guess, first of all, when everyone thinks about SMU, you initially think offense, but this is a stout defense. Just how good is that SMU defense?
Well, they've been exceptional, and I think the biggest reason is they're taking the ball away. They're scoring. They're turning into offensive players as soon as they get it. If it's a strip sack, pick it up and go. If it's a interception, guys immediately converting, blocking, understanding that, hey, we can score off this thing. This isn't just our ball. Let's go and get points. And that's a big difference. It's a big difference from last year. I mean, they were really good, elite, best in the country, one of the best in the country at kind of chaotic negative plays last year. I think they were top 3 in sacks, maybe number 2, and top 10 in tackles for loss. So they were creating all kinds of problems for offenses, but they didn't take the ball away. They just were really low in that department, and so that was a huge point of emphasis for Coach Lashley and for his team, this year. And it's coming to life right before our eyes. I mean, they are absolutely taking the ball away, have a great safety rotation, have a relatively stout. I mean, they've got a good defensive line. We saw, Jafari Harvey play his best game, since he's left Miami and maybe in his career, to be honest, with a couple of sacks, a couple of TFLs. But it's playmakers everywhere you look. You look at the linebacker level guys flowing very, very quickly. Just a really good disciplined defense that isn't afraid to take some chances to get the football. So that to me has been the biggest difference in them. And really, the difference in some of these ball games. I mean, some, you think about the Louisville game where it was pretty neck and neck, but the TCU game, the FSU game, Stanford, Like, not Stanford, take that one out of it. They were close for a second, and then bam, these guys get a couple of turnovers and just explode.
So, what will SMU need to do to get the W on Saturday night at Wallace Wade?
Number one, not turn the ball over, because I think that, again, Duke's opportunistic defense and the things that they've been able to do, it's almost like a flip, because those guys are so good at tackles for loss, sacks, and, absolutely getting after the quarterback. But, KJ for SMU, the quarterback there, Kevin Jennings, is a really electric player. We saw him ad lib against Stanford more than we have all year, and that's good and bad. There was one where it was just a bad decision, and he got kind of over his skis a little bit and gave them the ball, and they scored. A couple others, he made them into really good. So if Duke's playing discipline, if Duke is containing, having those big pass rushers do their thing, it could get weird. It could get interesting when that ball starts bouncing the other way.
Yeah, for sure. So given Manny Diaz, obviously Rhett Lashley, those are guys that know each other very well, right? I mean, they like where do you think the advantage lies there, right? You have a defensive guy that knows an offensive guy pretty well, and you have an offensive guy that knows a defensive guy pretty well. Which one has the greater advantage? And I know you were an offensive lineman, so you may have a skewed view on this.
That's right. Well, close your ears. I think anytime we know what the defense is doing, man, it's a game changer. Tendencies and personnel groupings, things of that nature. Which again, it's totally different, right? I mean, it's at Duke. It's a second go around. Being a head coach, all the success and probably new things that he learned and did. Manny Diaz, while he was at Penn State, that he's now translated here to Duke. But it's with offense. It's hard to get that jump. It's hard to truly know what I'm going to say we as an offensive guy, what we're going to do, right? Because we can hide so many things. We can give so many motions, different alignments. We can line up in one thing, motion to get what we really want to. So it's harder to get those type of tells. Now, if you guys got some people, you got some signals, you're doing things of that nature, hey, who knows? You might be in a good spot. But no, I'm kidding. It is one thing for me. I just feel like if you know what a defense is doing or what they're trying to do, you can do some pretty cool stuff offensively.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's going to be interesting, to see because I always love watching coaches go against each other that have a history and they know each other very well, and it's pretty interesting. So I guess on that note, and then we'll. So I think Scott's got one more after this, but what does Duke need to do? Duke obviously is coming in at 6-1, which I believe every person around the Duke program would have said 7 games in, we're 6-1. Every single person would have taken that. But that path to 6-1 has looked a little bit differently probably than what people were expecting. And so what does Duke need to do Saturday night in Wallace Wade in order to get the win?
Yeah, I think you continue to get Star Thomas the ball. I mean, it has been so fun to watch him compete, play at a really high level. A couple of games there, 3 games in a row, I just pulled it up there, 100-yard plus. Like, we got to find how we can channel that again. I mean, that's the type of guy that is a game changer and can really get things, involved in a hurry, because that means you're controlling the clock, you're controlling the tempo, you're controlling the ball, which can frustrate, an explosive offense that wants to go. If they're getting limited touches and if they have a 3 and out or a turnover, now they're even more pressured to where they're like, man, we got to go in a hurry, which can snowball into, even more bad decisions and turnovers and things of that nature. I also think, man, you got to force feed the ball to Jordan Moore. I mean, he's the type of guy that, I don't know, he's so special. He's so talented. He wasn't hurt, was he, against FSU? He's good. Like, he's fine.
No, he's been, so there's been a shoulder issue, and that's been a little under the radar, but it's actually been going on for like 3 games. And so that was, yeah. So that was the reason why you saw the limited. Correct. Yeah. In fact, his snap count, I haven't seen snap count, but his snap count was pretty low. Like, he wasn't out there at all. So
that's what I was wondering.
but should be fine. Should be fine for this weekend.
Yeah. And I mean, you're looking at Twitter and you're just like, you don't see anything because we don't know. I mean, they're so tight-lipped about injuries, man.
Yeah.
So
look, man, you didn't know college football injuries are like on the level of like national security. Like, it's crazy,
It's that, and
it's
then
like,
national security actually under
exactly.
So yeah, okay, well, that stinks. Well, if he is full go, though, you got to feed him. I mean, it's almost like uncomfortable, like calling plays for Jordan, because I think he's that good of a player, that elusive as a player, and can just he makes everything around him really better. So I don't know if there's any other like leaky injury news or what, but man, it's one of those things that when your best players are playing at a high level, it just gives everybody else that type of confidence to keep going. And so those are the two guys I would love to see really force-fed touches and giving the ball a lot.
All right, so Eric, we brought you on for football, but let's be honest. We don't talk to you about football when we have you on here just to football. So what time Saturday are you coming over for the tailgate? That's what we need to know. That's
all
what
I've
the
been
Duke
wondering.
fans are
That's all I've been
most
wondering.
excited to hear about.
Yes,
We ain't as
my
Big
man.
E coming to eat with us.
That's right. That's right. Well, the good thing is we will have some time and availability. So you tell me when it's ready,
right.
and I will be there. I will be there, no
So-
question.
So it's
What's on the
burgers
menu
and
first?
dog. It's burgers and dogs this week. Burgers and dogs, and then early there's breakfast.
Yes.
You know,
great.
bacon,
That'll probably
eggs,
be even better.
grits. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What time's early?
you know,
8:30 is when he's putting. Okay, so he's going to get there at 6:30. The guy who does
Okay.
it, he'll
Okay.
start cooking. I think he said about 8:30 or so. So
Yep.
about 9, the food will be ready for breakfast. Now,
That's
there's
gonna be
usually
tight.
a sparse crowd for that, but of course, I will be there because that's my time of day. And you
Big
give me as
facts.
much bacon and eggs and that stuff as you want, and I'm a happy
No
camper.
doubt. There we go. Well, I
yeah.
will
So
be.
then lunch will be sometime after. It'll be like a late lunch, 1:30, something like that. So yeah.
I also do just greatly appreciate the 3 courses. Like, you guys are so hardcore and do it the right way. It makes me so happy. I'll hear about other people and I'll ask them that, and they'll say one thing. And I'm like, well, what are you doing starting at 6 a.m.?
Right.
What's the rest of
Right.
the day look like? What
Exactly.
what the heck you got going on? So we'll be done
Right.
with we're going to hang out with Coach Feely, I think like 6:30 a.m. So I might be later to breakfast, but that'll be perfect. That might be the best window before dinner that I get over there and sneak and see you
Awesome.
guys.
Now, is your dad making the trip with you this weekend, or
No, I'm
or
sad, man. Dad won't be able to
man?
make it. My cousin will be there though. I don't remember. I don't think you guys have met him. So he played running back at Clemson. He was a walk on. He's stationed at Fort Bragg.
Okay.
He's in the Army there. He and his wife. And I think he's gonna come. He's gonna make the trip with me. And then my boy Ike, Big Ike. He's like a resident with Coach Feely in that weight room. I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to hang out or not. He's got some family stuff, but we might be loaded up. We'll see. Everybody be in blue.
All
Don't
right.
you worry about that.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it, and we also appreciate Eric sending us Taylor. Taylor was great last week on the pod. We
Yeah,
appreciated her
awesome.
coming on, and yeah, man. Well, listen, we can't wait to see you and the crew this coming Saturday at Wallace Wade Stadium. Real quick, Eric, tell everybody where they can find you, maybe on Twitter, and then what you do throughout the week with ACC Network.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate that very much. Just at Eric Mac Lain on Twitter. Check out the podcast right here for you. Been hanging out the whole time. We appreciate you guys and your support with that. Anytime that we're doing anything with the Blue Devils. So check us out, man. We'll be there all day. Come by the Tailgate Fest. That's going to be fun. The Fan Fest area. Would love, man, if we could have a bunch of Duke students, Duke fans over there to make it as big as we can, man. We went on a run at Boston College, SMU, where it was just sweet. I mean, the fans were awesome. The backgrounds were sick, and people really cared. So I'd love if we could get that at Duke and get it ramped up. That'll be 11 a.m. Eastern. Be there, be square. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on Section 17 podcast, man. We'll see you later on this week.
Thank you, brother.
And our thanks to Eric Mac Lain for taking time out of his busy schedule, walking with his daughter, of course, to join us and really just talk ACC football. Always great insight from Eric. Looking forward to seeing him as well as the rest of the ACC crew this Saturday night. Well, Jamie's not here, so we had to delegate someone to take over the duties. And since I do tell the tape, Scott does this week in Blue Devil history, there was only one man left that could take the reins of the mailbag. So, Josh, you went through all the questions. I know it was a hard, long day for you doing that. So why don't you go ahead and get us rolling?
Well, let me just, before I begin reading questions, I have to address this because I had more than one person that were completely disconnected. They would have no connection to one another. Ask me why I was been so angry the last couple of weeks during the questions. And so I'm not angry. I'm really not. And so I'm going to ask these questions with a good spirit and a good attitude tonight. Duke is 6-1. I'm happy about it. And so I apologize if I came across a little, less than smiley the last couple of weeks.
Hey, it's okay. We got it every week before we even hit the record button, so we understand, fans.
Yeah, no doubt. If you guys aren't in the pre-show chat, that gets a little rough. But anyway, So I've got them similar to what Jamie does, and shout out to Jamie because I had to do his job today, and he does a great job with this, and I'm glad he does it, and not me, every week. But I've got these broken down. We're going to talk a little bit FSU reaction, a little bit about the offense. Let's be honest, a lot about the offense, a little bit about the defense. By the way, Duke fans, not one question came through about SMU. That's our opponent this week. I might just throw a couple in there, and then we got some miscellaneous questions there to end. But I'm going to go through these as quickly as I can. We're going to begin with our friends on X, the Duke of QP, always throwing a question out to us after beating FSU for the first time ever. We did not rush the field. Is that where we are as a program or fan base? And I'll use his exact wording, or does it speak to how chitty this FSU team is? So no field rush. Is that a testimony to how good we are, or just how god awful Florida State has been this season?
I would say they're not worthy. I mean, that's just not worth it. I mean, to be honest with you, Chapel College wasn't really worth it, but we got the bell back. That was the most important part of that. That first win, though, in 23, very nice, beautiful. But yeah, no reason to rush the field on that bad boy. Now Saturday night, different story.
Yeah, they've been through enough this year, and I think adding insult to injury by rushing the field on a 1-16, that puts us down a peg. Like, we can't say anything about our neighbors 8 miles down the road that did it to us in Chapel Hill 2 years ago and threw some adult beverages on fans. Like, there was a lot. I was on the field pretty much the whole game, and there were fans debating in the stands when Duke was up. Do we rush the field? Do we not rush the field? Cash Rogers, shout out Cash. He even asked. He goes, "Do you think we'll rush the field?" I said no, because again, yes, it's the first win in 23 tries. But if this team was 6-0 coming in, absolutely rush the field. But the fact that they're just so down on their luck right now, a win's a win. Take it, move on, enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of act like you've been there, especially if your program, this from this year forward, Duke should never feel like that it doesn't belong on the field with these guys, and so I agree with that. All right, love the dub for sure. This is from Bo Lavorne on X. Love the dub for sure and everything about its significance, but must acknowledge the concern of being +4 in the turnover category and then only winning by 7. That has to concern the coaches. What are your thoughts on the turnover win, but then only winning the actual game by 1 score?
I mean, the fact that we are winning the turnover game is awesome. I mean, 2 years ago, we would have begged and pleaded to get 4 in a season. 4 in one game was great. 3 in a row was in the same play. The sequence was even better. So, I mean, yeah, we're struggling. Obviously, everybody knows that. But it's good that the defense is stepping up and doing their job to make it where the offense. And hey, honestly, if SMU's quarterback wants to throw the ball to Chandler Rivers, I'm pretty sure he can score another touchdown for us. We would love to see that again.
Chandler, Terry Moore. I mean, insert name here. I mean, we've got a lot of great kids on defense and offense too. But it's obvious, and we know the questions are coming, that the offense is struggling right now. But you know the saying, defense wins games, and that was evidence Friday night. Gosh, I'm already lost in my days, but the defense is what helped Duke get this win, and it was heir apparent, because had some of those takeaways not happened, Florida State was starting to build the momentum, especially after the kick return to start the third quarter. So shout out to the defense. Yeah, I mean, it's just this coaching staff knows what needs to be addressed, what needs to be fixed, because we talked about Georgia Tech being the most balanced team that this Duke team has played so far. That changes this Saturday night. SMU is a complete team. Um, and I've got facts, and we can talk about that once Josh asks his SMU questions. But, the defense is here. We need the offense to get up to that level too in order to go 7-1.
Yeah, and by the way, let's add in there what should have been the game-ending interception by Josh Pickett. Should have been the 5th turnover. I actually was able to speak to Josh after the game, and he is not sure what they did not come over and clarify why they said it was not an interception. They mentioned him being out of bounds. He's still not sure if that means that he stepped out before and came back in to catch the ball, or they were saying he was actually out of bounds. But he was like, he had the ball, like he caught the ball. So it was an interception. Just trying to figure out what they exactly saw.
And the guy on the sideline, the referee, did drop his hat. So that, to me, signified that Josh went out of bounds. But he had already established himself back in the playing field when he made the catch. So either way, offense, defense, it should have been a catch. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is
Yeah.
at this point.
We'll take the win. I would just love it for him to be able to get that interception in the 5th turnover. So here's a good question. Jordan Williamson from Facebook obviously was not able to be in attendance at the game, but how was the atmosphere at Wallace Wade? I heard the FSU war chant a few times, but it seemed like a fairly pro Duke crowd. What was your guys' take on the crowd?
I would say, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Looking, honestly, it was not a sellout like they said it was, but 30,000 people there on a Friday night is a huge thing. I mean, we're going to have a bunch of people there. You would almost think close to max with it being Human Being Day Saturday night. But yeah, the Duke fans were into it. One thing I will complain about, because this irks me a little bit, and I understand Friday night, whatever, Saturday, you're not supposed to be working. A lot of people left midway through the third quarter.
We're going to get to that. We got a question about that.
Okay, I'll drop off.
Scott, did you not read the document before we came on tonight?
I'm gonna be honest with you. No, I did not. I made sure that my stuff didn't have any screw ups, so you point out for me to be embarrassed again in front of God and everybody. So one thing at a time.
Hey, big dog, you know it's all out of love, man. I know you do the same for me. I would say the breakdown was 60-40. And now that 40% from FSU fans, they were loud. They were very loud. I would say from, what would you guys say, the 40-yard line on the opposing side over to the end zone was nothing but garnet and gold. And then you had a smattering of garnet and gold in with the Duke fans. My wife's best friend and my wife, my apologies, folks, if you saw, they were dressed in garnet and gold.
So embarrassing. So embarrassing.
But I do that all the time to her, so turnabout's fair play. But no, the fan base rocked out when they needed to. They were quiet on offense. We're getting there. The team's getting there. The fans are getting there. It's like everything's coming together at the right time. Wait, but Scott, but what?
There were still times when the offense had the ball inside the 20-yard line where everybody was standing and cheering instead of sitting and being quiet while we had the football. And that got pointed out a couple times. The people down towards the bottom there in front of the big deck, they were starting to chant and stuff as the ball was inside the 20 and make noise while the offense was going to take the snap. And people, the higher we got, the more you could see people like, calm down, shh. But at least they didn't put it on the scoreboard to do that. So that was a plus.
All right. 2 questions here about injuries. And I'll ask them. TK Kellum on Facebook and then Alex PM90 on X. Was Jordan Moore hurt? Only saw him on the field for a couple of plays. First question, will we see either Jordan or Jaquez Moore healthy again this season? What are your guys' takes on the more and more injuries?
Jordan Moore, I attempted to give him a high five before the game, and you could look at him and tell that he was not going. Wasn't trying to be rude about it, but you could tell his arm there's something going on with it. As far as Jaquez, I don't know. I mean, I thought by now he'd be back, but at this point, I mean, if we could save him, he's only played a game. I mean, if we could save him for next year, redshirt, hey, why not? Peyton's doing a great job as a backup to Star, and Star is being a star. So,
Agree.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we do know that Jordan was a game time decision, and that shoulder has just been a nagging injury, and so there's no really thing to know about it. And as we mentioned with Eric, it's funny that like college football injury reports are like more sensitive than like national security situations with our country. So
Speaking of that real fast, are there any more injury questions?
there are not.
Okay, so I can.
I mean,
save
some
from-
people mention in passing Nicky. Obviously, Nicky's out
Okay.
for the season. So
I was just
yeah.
going to mention that Nick Morris was available, but they were a little unsure. And Packy actually mentioned today there's an outside shot, speaking of redshirting, that they may redshirt him and not have him play the rest of the season so he can get healthy. They're going to give him an option and stuff like that's something they're going to talk about this week. They thought about later today or this afternoon. So anyway, just something to mention there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was more of like, Nick was going through warm-ups and maybe in like an emergency situation, maybe would have been available. Obviously, he was healthy enough to fully participate in warm-ups. And so that's good news on that end for sure. Here we go. I'm just here to complain about the phantom holding call on Star Thomas's long run with about 3 minutes to go. Also, the interception was clearly in bounds. This is kind of not really a question, but just a comment here from college football officiating, especially in the ACC, is the worst I've ever seen it across the board. That's from Byron Black on Facebook. Not really a question, just a statement. I don't think any of us disagree. Any disagreements there?
I mean, Madam line judge on the Duke sideline did a great job on some of the penalties she called. She called a handful of the offside, so she did a great job.
Duke fans.
So wait a minute, Brian. Did you realize what just happened?
What?
Scott
he gave
Medlin
a compliment.
was complimentary of a official.
Folks, if you don't gamble, go ahead to your local gas station, get you a
Yep.
Powerball ticket.
Yep.
Because Scott Medlin complimenting an ACC ref was
Hold on.
not on my bingo card tonight.
Let
That's
me
for
rebuttal.
sure.
Let me rebuttal what I just said. But the two long runs we had both had phantom flags that didn't make a lick of sense. So there you go.
Gotcha. That's more like it. That's more like
it, and I take it away.
I'm just telling you, Duke fans, mentally prepare. 2 weeks from now, Coral Gables in Florida. If Miami is undefeated and Duke goes down there, just be prepared for hankies all over the field because the ACC has to have at least one, if not two teams in the playoffs. So they're going to do everything possible for the Hurricanes to be one of those tems.
Rotator cuff surgery in Charlotte will be up that Monday after.
Yeah, Brian's gonna go put his tinfoil hat on while I pull up this next question. I'm just kidding.
The black helicopters are starting to circle my house.
That's right. Here we go. And after this one, there's two quick ones. Another week, another every time we touch reference. It changes the crowd's energy every time. Get it? We touch. And the defense made the biggest tackles for loss after it was played. My obsession with the song aside, what are y'all's thoughts on the student section mocking the war chant, the Tomahawk Chop? Was that funny or was that a bad look? That's from Lane Phipps on Facebook. So mentions every time we touch, but then what did you think about the Duke students mocking the Tomahawk Chop?
I mean, they do it in basketball. I mean, we don't talk about it, but they do it up there, up the hill. I mean, as long as it's in, and it was more than just the students doing it at the end, by the way. There was a bunch of people wearing Duke blue on the home side that were doing it. So, hey, it is what it is. If Duke was losing, somebody would chant something at them. So, turnabout is fair play. I mean, it's kids being kids and adults having fun because they have never beaten Florida State.
Yeah, 32 years of frustration. You knew it was going to happen sooner or later. It's happened in basketball. It's never happened in football. So now, if it continues, and I don't know, I don't see any problems with it because Florida State's had our number for so long.
Yeah, and I will say a couple of I was over on the sidelines at the end of the game, and a couple of players were participating over there as well. So hey, good on them for that. All right, last one, kind of about the Florida State game. This is from Jamie Hagler. Shout out hometownairnc.com. Jamie Hagler says, where was the bell? Did it ever make an appearance on the field? And then he makes a comment. In other news, we got spoiled the last couple seasons with a mobile quarterback. We'll get there. But where was the bell, Brian? We know where the bell was. Where was it?
So the bell was actually in the Bull City huddle area right outside of the Yo. for fans to take photos and ring it. I kid you not, we were halfway through the first quarter and I could hear the bell from the field being rung. Wait, what?
It was happening during the national anthem. I
Oh,
looked at Jamie and I'm like, "Is that the bell? Are you kidding me right now?" And they were ringing the bell over during the national anthem. I about died laughing. It was
God,
hilarious.
God bless America. I will say this: I've had conversations with some of the staff at Duke. I'll just preface by saying this: they view that as a trophy against UNC. The administration and the school does. Great that we have it, but the logistics of getting it on the field, we were told, is a nightmare. They don't have a freight elevator to move it down. They can take it down the tunnel, but bringing it back up, you would need a whole bunch of manpower. So we suggested, hey, the fans have been waiting for this bell. Can we figure out a time? Can we do the bye week? Like, is there something we can do or Duke can do, not we, Duke, to show the appreciation to the fans? And I was shocked. I had no idea. None of us did. I walked by it when I came in and I saw the bell and I immediately texted the guys and said the bell's in the Bull City huddle. So will it be there this Saturday? No idea. They might do it in case there's fans that couldn't make it for the Florida State game to come to the SMU game, but do not expect it to be on the field until next year's UNC game at Keenan.
Yeah, you should see them try to wheel those equipment things up the ramp. I mean, the ramp's no joke, and so I can see definitely why they don't do that. We're going to move into some questions about the offense, and obviously there are some questions about Malik Murphy and the quarterback position. I'll try to ask a couple of those together. And so let's see here, but let's start with a little bit of a funny one. Dalton Spurlock on X. Should one of us sacrifice and eat dog poop in order for our offense to be productive? And that is a shout out to the Florida State guy who said if they lose whatever game it was early on in the season, he would eat.
There was a second one, Josh.
Yeah, I know. I saw that one too. Yeah.
And that was against Duke. He said
Yeah.
if we lose to Duke, I will
Yep.
honor eating dog poop out of a cup. And I don't know if he's done it. I think he went into hiding too. If we were 1-6, I would consider it. But the fact that we're 6-1 and bowl eligible, nah, I'm out. I'm not doing it.
Well, if you saw the response or not, I'm not sure if you did. Jamie did put a vote in, and we said Mr. Kennedy over there because the other three of us are not going to do it.
Fantastic. Jamie's not here. Don't care.
That's right. That's right. That's right. All right. A little bit more in depth here. Big Papa RV on X. Do our offensive woes have more to do with A, missing a running back, a tight end, and a wide receiver, or our offensive coordinator never having been an offensive coordinator in Power 4, only a co-offensive coordinator, whatever that means? So, asking the question, is it more offensive coordinator related, or is it more missing, basically, well, we were missing 3 starters. Jordan Moore played a couple of plays, but we were missing RB1, tight end 1, wide receiver 1 on Friday. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say this, and the more I think about this, the fact that we're missing Nikki, and in all honesty, Boggs started over Taylor in the first series. Boggs have not had a pass thrown in his direction yet. Taylor got a couple thrown in his direction. So we're talking about 2 guys who have not played that much. Missing Jeremiah also. Then everybody was double teaming Jordan Moore. That's why Eli has been open so much. Well, no Jordan Moore, Eli gets doubled. And I want to say this as nicely as I can without ruffling any feathers. We are still having problems with alligator arms across the middle and then things hitting hands and they're not being caught. There was a couple times that it took the guy 3 attempts at the one pass to catch the football because it hit him in the hands. He knocked it up, hit him in the hands again, and he had to knock it back to himself the 3rd time. And that's happening a lot. So some of the times we're coming across the middle, and like so we're getting, like this most of the time, but then they're alligator arms trying to catch it like this, and you can't do that. So, I mean, people know that we're running an RPO offense without the R. So if you don't have an R in an RPO, you know what's coming, they're stopping it. They're 8 in the box. I mean, it is what it is. And still the fact that Star Thomas and the offensive line are making holes for the running backs is a big deal. And then we are getting receivers open and having the opportunities. And one thing to think about, and I don't know if you guys paid attention to it, we mentioned it up there in the stands. Not one pass over 20 yards was thrown in the game Saturday night from League. Usually on third down, we throw a 40-yard pass. That never happened. So I don't know if that was by design or what, because I still think there's opportunities where our wide receivers are not getting open. They're getting bogged down in the two-yard range, and they're just not having a chance. Maybe that's why Malik's struggling too. I mean, there's so many things, obviously, but that's just my take on the situation.
Well, what did we say against Georgia Tech? What succeeded at Georgia Tech, and I'm just thinking with the passing game and everything, was the slant routes, because 2 touchdowns were from slant routes. Well, yeah, Samir was a slant route. He just bolted. I truly think that, and guys, you've all played sports, that there are some games to where you play to the level of your opponent when it comes to performance. And there are games, and I'm not saying Duke at all thought this way, and I have no inside knowledge, but when you just look at the record alone, you're playing a team who's down, who's only got 1 win. Some thoughts start coming in. Oh, we should be good. We should get a win. This should be a win. And then for whatever reason, this is just how sports is, and I think we as humans love it. That game that you think that you have in the bag didn't necessarily happen. Vanderbilt beating Alabama. That's one example in football. Absolutely no one gave Vanderbilt a chance, and they upset Alabama. I'm not saying that was the case, but it could be a contributing factor to what happened on Friday night, because the person behind the mic giving the plays understands and knows that changes need to be made, improvements need to be made. And if you don't think he understands and knows that, then you don't know football. Because I'm just going to say it. Duke has the 112th best offense in the country right now, out of 133 schools. I don't think the man on the headset wants to hear that, but it is what it is. And to Scott's point, with the RPO, when there's no R, or you try to do an RPO, there we go. But the defense knows that you do not have a mobile quarterback. 8 in the box going right after the running back. We've got the 113th best rushing offense right now in the country. I'm not trying to lay it on, but I'm just trying to say that the improvements that need to be made are across the board. It's running and passing. But I'm gonna pull a Scott. I'm gonna try to say this as nicely as possible. We're not the ones that make the changes. We're not the ones that can make the changes. And I don't think a simple benching of one player and putting another player in is going to solve all the problems. It did in one game, well, not benching, but taking out for a series or two. We saw it with Henry being put into the game at the Northwestern. He got a spark, but as soon as that spark was lit, he got pulled out. Malik got pulled back in or put back in, and then he played the rest of the game. We saw Henry one series, or one play, I should say, and it was that crazy trick play that got the team 5 yards. Yes, it was a first down, but I looked at Tyler, our producer, and said, all that for that short of a yard. Like it's almost like they don't know what to do in certain situations, so they just pull stuff out to see if it works. That's how I felt on that play. It could have been a design play with the defense, with what the defense was showing. I don't know. And I've been rambling, but all that to say is that, again, this team is 6-1. If this team was 1-6, I think the conversation would be a lot more harsh, and it could be a lot more different concerning the offense. I'll stop because I can keep going, and I'm not trying to.
I will say this: I did like the imagination, though. The fact that they did try to
True.
run a couple of trick plays,
True.
that was really good. I mean, granted, honestly, in situations at times in most places, kids would have tried to make those passes and it would have been picked off. So the fact that we didn't make the stupid mistake there was a really good thing because the momentum that we did have at the time could have went down the crapper real fast. And one other thing, and I'll leave it alone. I think one more thing we need to think about, and I know this sounds crazy. This is the first year of this offense with these guys. We're in the 7th game, 8th game starting Saturday. Whether we like it or not, Coach, it's on him. It's on Coach Diaz. But he's got to also let the guys have a chance to try to play themselves out of it. I think a good coach gives that chance. Now, it may never happen. I understand that. But he's got to give his guys a chance. This is a first year, first opportunity. I mean, it stinks. I understand. It's frustrating. But at the end of the day, we're not making the decision. We're paying the money to watch it, but we're not making the decision to who does what, when, where, and how. If we did, that would be a different story. And yeah, I would take that paycheck too if they want to give it to me.
Well, guys, I can honestly say if you answer the other questions as long as you took for that question, we're going to be here until Friday night.
I thought we just answered all the questions with that one answer.
Jesus. I do want to say that I do want to give a shout out to Brian for evidently what I got out of Brian's comments was he compared Duke to Alabama and Florida State to Vanderbilt. And so I just want to point that out. You were talking about how no one thought that Vanderbilt would beat Alabama, and then you're like, no one thought that Florida State was going to beat Duke because Duke was favored. That was the comparison.
Oh well, sorry.
Hey, no, we'll take it. We'll take it,
Hey.
man. We'll take it. Like,
So Duke
I'm not
has a better
mad.
chance at the playoff. Is that what you're trying to say now?
Duke does have, Duke and
I love
Bama
the
neck and
fans
neck,
that,
baby.
Yeah, I love the fans that play the 6 degrees of separation. Like NIU beat Notre Dame. NIU got beat by Buffalo. Buffalo got beat by UConn. UConn gets beat by Duke. Duke should be in the playoff.
Right, exactly. And UConn's better than Notre Dame, somehow
Yeah.
and all that, right? So Anyway, all right. So here we go. I'm gonna ask these questions because I don't want anybody to say we're ditching. We're not asking the tough questions. New week, same question. Alton Vaden on X. How long are we going to ride with Murphy? I'm thrilled to win, thrilled to be 6-1, but this offensive scheme is going to get exposed badly very soon. Fish Fry 02 JD. Shout out to JD on X. Hangs out at the tailgate with us. If you were the coach today, this is a great question. If you were the coach today looking at the upcoming schedule, do you continue with Murphy as your quarterback based off his play alone? And then let's see here. Last one I'll kind of add into this. I think it's Countess or Kuntis on X. In the second half to play with Beelan doing the toss back to Murphy for completion. Most creative play I've seen all year. Can we bring that creative energy for a full quarter or dare to dream a half just instead of one series? So kind of a couple of things about the QB situation and the creativity or lack thereof. I know we just spoke a lot about it. Anything to add to what you've already said?
I mean, 3 questions. Get ready for a 30-minute answer. If there was ever a time to where changes could be made, these next 2 weeks are going to be it. Because, again, SMU is a well-balanced team. I'm just going to give the stats really quick. I don't know if any of the questions had to do with it. They have the 31st best ranked offense in the country, and they have the 25th best ranked defense in the country. They're only giving up 87 rushing yards a game, 7th best in the country. They are, however, giving up 290 passing yards a game. That's 90th best. So it's almost a mirror image of what Georgia Tech was coming into the Georgia Tech game. But going back to my original thought, if you don't perform in these next 2 games against a Southern Methodist school that's 6-1, 3-0 in the conference, and then you go down to Coral Gables and play number 6, probably it'd be higher up after this weekend. Let's say number 5, number 4 ranked Miami, and you don't do the job, conversations are going to be made before that game in Raleigh against North Carolina State. That's just my thoughts, my opinions, because we talk about this. Our schedule has not been not so much the hardest leading up to this, but the teams that we thought were good have not been as good as we thought. And the teams that we didn't know if they were good or bad, they've not really been good at all. So, not taking away our 6-1 record, but these next 2 games could decide how the rest of the year goes.
I would say this, and this is just my 2 cents worth for what it's worth. If he struggles and you want to stay with the red shirt being the red shirt, then you have to give Beelan a chance. However, if you struggle with A, you struggle with B, go to C. Obviously, C can win. I'm not saying Grayson did a great job last year. He has some, games under his belt. If it's not going to work, you got to try something. You got to fix the problem instead of you can't put duct tape on a leaky sink. Okay, if you're going to keep putting duct tape on it, it's eventually not going to work out well for you at the end of the day.
And I mean, listen, I'll just say this. I mean, we're facing a team this coming Saturday who made a quarterback change in week 2 or week 3, benched their starter who was started for them all season last year, and went to Kevin Jennings, and this worked out absolutely in their favor. And so, it happens. I mean, this is also, the week of firings, right? Head coaches, coordinators, like all throughout the country, it just is what it is. So this isn't Pee Wee football, right? This is ACC football, competing for championships. And so I'm going to ask this next question, and then I've tried to stay quiet on answers, but I'm going to kind of answer this one and let you guys kind of comment on it. Doug Brown asked a question on Facebook, and it's a long one, but I think it's valid. Whatever happened to the explosive plays we heard about from the coaches preseason? We're calling runs up the middle time after time, falling behind the chains every time because we gained just a yard. I think Malik is not able to throw downfield because the FSU DBs were all over our receivers with no separation. Why was that? Because maybe there was no threat of a run to progress past the box for the DBs to have to tackle. So they could simply focus on tight coverage in the secondary. The tight coverage takes away the passing game. That's from Doug Brown. I think that is very valid. Like, I want to comment on it on one thing, and I will say this. Everybody knows, like, the position that I now hold with our NIL collective and all this. And so I am not saying anything right now that is kind of any kind of insider information, insider knowledge. There's been nothing said to me about this, and that's the honest truth. But I will say Jonathan Brewer spoke to the media, spoke to, people inside, outside the program preseason about wanting this offense to be the fastest offense in the conference. The number of plays, if we get right up and snap the ball, they can't. We can wear them down on defense. They can't substitute. We want to run the most plays, in the conference. He didn't change, right? Like, he did not change, and what he intended and wanted to do did not change. It's not like Jonathan Brewer, said all that in the offseason, and then heading into week 1, he's like, hey, I fed all those suckers a bill of goods. We're going to come out and, play completely conservative and different. Something is taking place that is requiring Coach Brewer to call the game like he is calling the game. Now, with the answer to that question, it could be QB1. It could be. Absolutely. It could be the unique situation of our offensive line. I can't quite figure them out. Like, sometimes the offensive line looks absolutely incredible to me, and they keep Malik on his feet, and he doesn't get hit, and he gets rid of the football, and I don't know what to say about that, because other times we try to run the football, and I feel like we can't move anybody off the line of scrimmage. So I'm not sure exactly where we are on the offensive line, but obviously that's something he has to deal with. And then you've lost Jeremiah and you've lost Nicky, and both of those guys were very good pass catchers out of the tight end position and great run blockers. And now you got Jake Taylor, who, listen, he got thrown into the starting role. He struggled. We don't criticize players on this podcast, but he struggled. I mean, there were a couple of missed blocks. There was a phantom holding penalty they called against him, did not see where that was holding. But a phantom holding penalty, but it's tough. And so I would just say this. There is a reason, and I don't know the reason. If I knew the reason, I would tell you. I don't know the reason, but for some reason, mid-October plans for this offense did not translate to mid-September, mid-October. And there has to be reasons for that. And if everybody wants to say it's QB1, cool. Like, it's QB1. I don't know. But something changed there. And so I just think that puts it in perspective. I don't have the answers to it, as you guys said. If we made changes, if A's not working and we put B in and B's not working, do you go back to A? Like, what do you do? And so, anyway, at the end of the day, as Brian has said, ugly 6-1. Ugly. We'll give you that. But it's 6-1. It's bowl eligible in mid-October. It's Duke fans already knowing they need to look at December and, who knows, into December, early January on their calendars. There's Brian. We got a question there, Brian. We're gonna ask you. But talking about bowl season again for the third straight year. So anyway, that's the perspective that I have on that. And anyway, my thoughts.
Good Lord, Josh, if you take that long to answer a question, we might be here till midnight. No, I mean, words couldn't have been said any better. I agree.
Well, okay.
I will say one
Go ahead,
thing.
Scott. No, you're good.
No, one thing. When the offense has been up tempo and it's worked, it has worn the other teams out, and it has been deadly. But right now, it's basically they're getting the play in, and at the 15-second mark when the comm stops, they're snapping the football. So I don't know if they're cutting it off and that's what's going on, but either way, something's got to change. Let's put it that way.
I will say one thing. I'm sorry, just popped in my head. No huddle has been working well for this offense, but they have not been doing it consistently. It's like they do their set plays. That doesn't work after a certain amount of series. And I know we've talked about that till we're blue in the face. And then when it feels like that's not working, okay, let's no huddle. No huddle goes well. And then the next series, they go back to doing set plays. And then it's like the consistency is not there. But again, we're playing armchair quarterback. We don't know the discussions throughout the week from the coaching staff to the players. So it's just, I think the identity is still trying to be found for this offense.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I agree. A couple of questions about heading to the defense. Bentley Weeks, shout out Bentley Weeks, becoming a weekly question guy, and I appreciate Bentley. He hangs out. I think he's been to tailgate a couple times and communicates with us on Facebook. And then he asked, where does this defense rank among all-time Duke defenses? Collectively, this group feels like one of the best units we've ever seen in Durham, in my opinion. And then Alex PM90 on X asks, is this Duke's best pass rush of all time? What are your thoughts on where this Duke defense is in the history books for Duke?
No one's touching that 1938 Iron Dukes defense.
Unscored upon, baby. Unscored on. Okay, outside of the 1930s, where does this Duke?
Do they have the forward pass then? I don't know. Man, yeah, I would rank this. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but this defensive squad, let's just say the last 2 to 3 years. I'll throw in the Mike Elko years as well. For some of you Duke fans, it might trigger you.
Some of you are shaking right now.
The days of Wallace Wade defenses like that, I'd rank them 1A, 1B. I mean, we have not seen a consistent defense like this in our lifetimes. Scott, I don't know if the 80s had. I would say Jamie if Jamie was here too.
That is great. He just talked about his lifetime, and then it's like, Scott, you could speak to the lifetime before.
Back in the 60s. No.
Yeah.
But seriously, obviously the mid 90s to 2000s, we're going to throw those out. I can't think of a team during the David Cutcliffe era that was this good.
Nah, he
every single
was such an
game.
offensive guy, and we could
Right.
put points on the board, but yeah, defense was not
Right.
primary for sure.
So yeah, I would say pre to mid World War II era rankings. So I can't think of any other team. So yeah, they're pretty high up. Other than 1938, you can't touch them. You can't touch the Iron Dukes.
Well, since I am the old guy, honestly though, legit, I don't know if I could name a team that has been better defensively. I think we've had some numbers where guys have been really good, and we've had really good teams. Here's a question, and you guys do not have to answer this, but I'm going to throw this out there to the masses. Right now, October the 21st, looking at Duke's defense, who would you say was the most valuable player on the defense through 7 games? That's a good question because honestly, you can't name you can name about 10 names right now as guys that are just having great years and have done so many things that that's why I think you have to put them on that pedestal. In the past, it's always been, and last year's team, Dwayne Carter, loved the man to death. He's one of our favorite guys ever. He was that guy. He was the guy that led the defense. Now we got 8 guys out there each game, and you don't know which one's going to be the guy. Last week, Ozzie had a huge week in tackles. Chandler had the pick 6. 3 weeks ago, Trey Freeman was the guy.
Cam
you don't
Bergeron,
know.
Alex
Cam
Howard.
Bergeron. And
Yeah.
another thing about that too, speaking of Cam Bergeron, you mentioned that. You don't know where he's lining up. I think that's a great thing when we're getting to that. And I was telling Jamie this the other night. Watch where Cam Bergeron is when we're getting ready to blitz these guys. They don't know where he's coming from, and they don't know if he's coming or Stinson's coming. And that's a great thing that we're doing on defense, which adds to the lore and the greatness, as you want to say, of this defense and what they're doing so far.
Yeah, we got to move, guys, because we got a few more, and I'm gonna have to call some out here. But I will say, what I just mentioned about Coach Brewer and his expectations in the offseason and preseason coming into this year and not being met. I mean, boy, Manny Diaz and Jonathan Packey on the defensive side were like, we're going to try to lead the country in tackles for loss. And, you know what I mean? And like, daggone, they're doing it. Like, I mean, they're, right up there. And so that's been pretty crazy to see. Mary Nettleton on X, Scott, this is for you, bud. And I think we all have a good answer for this. But she says, I have to get up at the crack of dawn for work, or on Sundays, volunteer shifts that rely on my presence. It is better for me to just skip night games or going and leaving early because I need at least 5 hours of sleep. Seems like I'm judged either way. So is it better for her to just skip the games or leave early because she needs 5 hours of sleep?
I'm not going to lie to you. This Saturday night is the perfect example of pick your poison because the game starts at 8. It's not going to end till at least 11:30. This last Friday night, we found out why we hang around for 30 minutes after the game at the tailgate before we pack up our junk and go home because we sat in traffic for 45 minutes. So now you're talking after midnight. Get home, go to bed 1:30. If you're a person of faith that gets up on Sunday morning and goes to church,
Preach.
you got to get up by 7:30, 8 o'clock to go meet the Sunday school hour if that's what you do.
Come on, boy.
So yeah, it's a tough one, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I understand the problem. To me, I've been begging for 8 o'clock games my whole life. The 12 o'clock Raycom special was the Duke thing back in the day, and that's how it's always been. The fact that the last 3 seasons Duke has been in prime time, and let's take this one step further. And I know this has nothing to do with the question. This is the first year that I can remember. Last year was pretty close, but the bed didn't get wet. We were on national TV, and we looked like we were supposed to be there. And in years past, man, we are so pumped, so excited. And 3 minutes into the game, we're like, crap, we must just go ahead and go home. So to answer your question, stay for a half. Enjoy yourself. Because honestly, Saturday night, human being day, we're going to have the place packed full of people. The free food is going to be over for the employees. usually around kickoff, they're not going to stay much past the first quarter anyway. And if for some reason SMU or Duke gets up big, I can tell you they're not going to stay because 90% of them support that light blue God 8 miles away, and nobody gives a crap about them. They don't matter anymore. So I would say come, spend a little bit of time, tailgate in the afternoon, have a good time with the fans, then go home, and you can watch the second half on Sunday afternoon instead of taking your nap.
There you go. And I would just say this, and this is not just to Mary, this to anybody. We give people, or fans give people a hard time for leaving. Listen, number one, there are things more important and bigger than football. Like, one of us or all of us at some point in time will miss a Scott missed a game earlier this season. Brian, I think, has or will miss a game. I don't know if you will this year, but we have in the past for sure. Missed games for different things. I performed a wedding last year, going to miss a game. It just is what it is. And so, like, anything that's said is like tongue in cheek. And I think Scott's point, I think we tweeted this or Scott tweeted this. It's not like the one or two people that leave for a good reason, like Mary, mentioned. It's like when it's like a full like gulf of people, leaving at the end of the third quarter, and it's like, where did the 20% of the Duke fans just take off to? Right? Certainly not all 20% of those people, had something specific they had to get to, and I think that's really it. It's kind of the broader picture of like, we want to be known as Duke supporters, that we stick it out all the way to the end, support the team, win, lose, or draw, all the way to the final. Look, we've stayed in Wallace Wade during some blowouts where we're getting our butt handed to us.
I had to leave halfway through the fourth this past Friday night. I mean, my youngest Harrison, he just could not hang anymore, and my wife pretty much begged me to leave, and I said, okay, let's do this, because was her name Mary? I'm sorry.
Yep,
Yeah,
Mary.
Mary. I mean, my boys had soccer games the very next morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. And had I stayed, the entire time and hung out afterwards, like, I would have been a walking zombie the next day. So, yeah, I mean, I know we joke about it, and I know that we laugh about it, but just showing up and interacting with other Duke fans, even if it is for a half. I mean, I know people that do that because they understand, to Josh's point, there's more to life, but at least to say that I was there in some capacity helping the team or watching this team win, kudos to you.
All right, I've got a Regina Lee from Facebook. Shout out to Regina, one of our friends. She mentions Coach Diaz speaking in preseason about mastery, right, and mastering the craft and excellence. She goes, "Seems this team was chasing mastery and excellence, not just wins." Paraphrasing, winning just means that the other team made more mistakes. But as you know, fans are concerned because Duke's win-loss records show success, but the play on the field does not show mastery or excellence. This team's attitude and tenacity show greatness, and I have nothing but love for these players. Coach Diaz, who I am loving, set the bar. He told us his program is about mastery, excellence, and greatness, and that's why we're struggling to understand why this team doesn't seem to be improving or iterating in key areas. If Duke football and Duke fans have high expectations, that's a good thing. It means we believe in this program. She asked a question. We're not going to be able to answer it, but I'm kind of giving this. Does Coach Brewer have a history of helping his offenses improve over a season? Does Coach Infante on the special teams have such a history as well? Looking at Infante's previous positions, maybe not, but I don't know. I know Infante spent a lot of time in the high school ranks. Did Coach Diaz's teams improve over the season? Maybe the staff needs reps together. This season is season 1. This is rep 1. They deserve to have time to improve, and the fans can be, I love this quote, the fans can be both supportive and demanding. Cheer loudly for Duke, and then ask Duke football talk why we can't get better, right? And so I think there's really no question there that I think we can get into because of time. But I love that they deserve to have time to improve, and the fans can be supportive and demanding. Cheer loudly for Duke, and then ask Duke football talk why we can't get any better, right? So I think that's a good perspective for Regina, right?
And good news, Virginia is planning on being there Saturday night at the game, just so everybody knows.
Yes. That's a long walk from California. We appreciate her making it, but I do appreciate that perspective. And then we're missing, hey, listen, I do want to give a couple shout outs. Billy Gist on Twitter. Griff Garrison asked, does ketchup belong on a hot dog? Incredible question. Paul Cook, we're going to have to skip yours. JD, we got a second part of yours. I will have to ask Jamie that one. It's about WrestleMania. Will Brinson had a question. I think Brian connected with him on social. Kirk Klein, we're going to miss yours. We got one final one from Timothy Parton on Facebook. Now that we're bowl eligible, I need to know Brian Kennedy's early bowl predictions. I know, Brian, you give it on DukeReport.com or Duke Report. I forget what that actual URL is. But can you give a little inside info on the podcast, Brian, about your bowl predictions as of this past week?
Yeah, all I'll say is be on the lookout. The latest bowl projections will come out probably Wednesday or Thursday on the Duke Report. I will say,
What's your hint? What's your hint, Brian? Give us a hint.
If you like tomato sandwiches with a certain condiment on the bread.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
And I will also say this. I spoke with both the reps of the Pop-Tarts Bowl and the Gator Bowl. Shout out Gator Bowl reps. They wore like Masters green jackets. But they both told me they love what this Duke team's all about. And both bowl, I guess, ACC hosts that were there, one of the two, said that they would love nothing more than to have Duke at their bowl this year. But Duke's got to win, I would say, 3 more games for that to happen. It's an uphill battle. Anything's possible, but Duke's got to be at least 9-3 to qualify for either of those 2 bowls. But yes, Duke Report in the coming days, I will have my updated bowl projection with Freddie.
Shout out to Freddie Hodges on that. And so those are your questions. We want to thank El Rodeo on North Duke Street for being an R&D sponsor. We want to encourage you to head over to El Rodeo anytime you're around campus. It's only about 10 minutes away from campus. Hit it up. They got a great atmosphere, great food, great drinks. Remember, in order to win the ticket giveaway from our other sponsor, Matt Bliven, head to El Rodeo sometime after Wednesday when they open. Let them know you're there with the Section 17 podcast. The first person that says that will get 4 free tickets to the SMU game and a $50 gift card to El Rodeo. But you're only going to know that if you listen to the podcast. We're not going to tweet it. We're not going to put it on social media. You got to listen to the podcast. Scott, what you got, homie?
Well, hang on one second.
I hadn't gone there yet. I saw him unmuted.
Okay. I'm sorry, Scott. Do your thing.
Are you ready for this week in Duke?
Oh, no, we're not ready. Oh, that's what Scott was ready for.
That's what I was waiting on.
Go ahead.
If you are the lucky winner, please tweet, post, whatever, a photo of yourself holding the tickets and the $50 gift card. We at least want to know who got it, so just let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And then also, if you eat there, I'm starting to get people sending me pictures from El Rodeo, and I pass them on, by the way, to the owners. So y'all keep doing that. If you go to El Rodeo, snap a picture, send it to me. Send it to the owners to let them know that the podcast is supporting everything that they do. So, Brian, man, in full Jamie mode here, Brian got me in the chat right there. I looked at the chat and I shouldn't have. It's that time. Every week we hear about a positive, a superlative, if you will, from Duke football. This week in Blue Devil history, Scott Medlin, take it away.
All right, so we're going to go back a couple years now to October 26, 2013. Duke traveled up to Blacksburg. They got to hear Enter Sandman and everybody dancing and screaming and hollering for the, at that time, number 13 Virginia Tech Hokies. Unfortunately, they choked 13-10. Blue Devils beat them. Anthony Boone did not have the greatest of days throwing the football, however. 107 yards and 4 INTs. But the rest of the story, he had only 1 TD of the day, and it was a 9-yard run. Ross Martin hit 2 massive bombs, 51 yards and 53 yards. The Duke defense was led by David Helton with 19 tackles. My goodness. Kelby Brown also had 14 tackles and an INT. So Duke went up there that day, won, and ended up being 5-2 after the game, and that was actually one of their better seasons ever. So that was this week in Duke football history.
Hey, it's always good to get a win in Blacksburg. Always good. And so shout out to David Helton, man. 19 tackles is ridiculous. All right. It's that time. We've got a fresh opponent. Not ever, but the first time in a long time has Duke played SMU. And Brian is here to give us this week's Tell the Tape. Take it away.
All right, Josh, tell the tape for the SMU Mustangs. Last year, SMU went 11-3 and won the AAC championship, defeating Tulane. They would then move on to the Fenway Bowl, where they would be defeated by Louisville 23-14. So they actually got some revenge earlier this year, defeating Louisville at Louisville. Currently, SMU is 6-1 and 3-0 in conference play. And last week, SMU defeated Stanford handily, 40-10. Head coach Rhett Lashley is in his third season with the Mustangs and has a 24-10 overall coaching record, and he is also 0-2 in bowl game appearances. Now, before becoming the SMU head coach, Lashley held various assistant coaching positions at Miami, SMU, UConn, Auburn, Arkansas State, and Samford. Overall, this is actually the third meeting all time between Duke and SMU, with Duke leading the series 2-0. The first ever meeting between the Blue Devils and Mustangs took place all the way back on September 26, 1952, at the Cotton Bowl Stadium in Dallas, where Duke would defeat SMU 14-7. The two teams would meet 4 years later in Wallace Wade Stadium in 1956, where Duke would defeat then number 19 SMU 14-6. Overall, SMU has a 19-19-2 record against current ACC schools, with the Mustangs having winning records against 8 of the 16 schools. The only two schools SMU has yet to play in program history is Virginia and Clemson. Now, after this year's game, Duke and SMU will not play again until the year 2030, when Duke will travel to Dallas. I wonder if the Duke Football Talk Section 17 crew will still be around by then. Now it's time for Did You Know? SMU has fielded a football team since 1915. However, the school lacked a mascot for the first couple of years. When the football program was started, the team went by the Parsons, due to the large number of theology students on the team. Realizing the university needed a mascot to show school spirit and unity, the school administration announced in early 1917 that there would be a naming contest amongst the faculty and students, with the student body deciding the winner. After all the nominations were submitted, the final 4 suggestions for the school's mascots came down to the Bison, the Greyhounds, the Pioneers, and of course, the Mustangs. The student body unanimously picked the Mustang name on October 25th, 1917. Now, the winning entry had been submitted by Dorothy Amon, who was the secretary for the school president at that time. Amon gained her inspiration for the Mustang name after she watched a football practice from her office one day. Said Amon, "Why, out there on the football field, it just looks like a bunch of wild Mustangs running around." The school's first live mascot was named Peruna after a medicine that had, quote, a lot of kick in it. The mascot itself was a Shetland pony and was introduced on November 4th, 1932 during the team's game against Texas A&M. Since that time, there have been 9 ponies that have taken on the Peruna name and have been on the sidelines for SMU football games. And that was the tale of the tape for the SMU Mustangs, Josh.
As we mentioned in our Facebook group, if you're trying to scam people out of tickets for Saturday, you will get run over by a miniature pony or trampled by a miniature pony. And so shout out to our new ACC members, SMU. And so that's going to be a fun one. Hopefully the start of, some good matchups with them. And yes, I would plan on already going to Dallas. Any excuse, I think, to get out there would be a lot of fun. And so 2030, Southwest Airlines, baby, here we come. But anyway, predictions. We got some winners. They've already been contacted, I believe, today. But we've got some winners from last week. Brian, who do we have?
Yeah, we mentioned 2 of the 3 earlier on XJD. Fish Fry
02.
Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. He predicted Duke to win 23-13, so only off by 3 points. On Facebook, Corey Cavallari.
Yep.
He predicted Duke to win 23-17, only off by 1 point. And then Regina Lee, who is a self-admitted fair-weather fan. She got it right on the nose, 23-16. Regina, congratulations. I believe you are the first this year to get the score right on the nose. So congratulations to all three of you.
We may have to just hook Regina up with something extra. You know what I mean? If she's gonna be at the game, come by the tailgate. We'll have you a little something extra for getting it on the nose. By the way, Corey Calaveri also had a question that we weren't able to get to that reminded me as well. But now we're looking forward though. We got a game this Saturday, SMU, 8:00, Wallace Wade. Make sure, by the way, that you're following us on all social media channels, including Facebook, searching for Duke Football Talk. X and Instagram at Duke FB Talk, DukeFootballTalk.com, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Like, share, comment. Anyway, Brian, give us the numbers, what we're looking at over under, and what's the spread, man?
Ooh, yeah, so it's not looking too hot right now as we head into Saturday night. Duke opened as, I believe I said, a 10-point underdog. It has gone up to 11.5 now. Duke an 11.5-point underdog, and the over-under is 48.5 points. I'll just go ahead and start. I don't know if you saw the group text, Josh, but SMU only wears a white helmet. They have worn a blue and a black helmet in the past, but this year it has been nothing but white. All they have is white pants. So, of course, they're going to go with the white out because Duke is the home team. So I'm thinking you're going to match wits with wit. I think they're going to go all blue with the Gothic script, all blue with the white Gothic script. As far as the score, though, I've got to go with – I can't go with my heart this year or this week. I've got to go with everything I've seen and all the research I've done. Duke fans, forgive me for this one. I've got SMU winning this one pretty convincingly. I just personally, and I hope I will eat crow next Monday night when we record this. I just don't know if the changes that need to be made for this offense can be made in a 8-day turnaround. Forgive me, y'all. I've got SMU winning 34-14. This team is a very well-balanced team. Hopefully they falter, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
All right, I'll go next, but I'm going to go ahead and read Jamie's first. So Jamie has a prediction he'd like to get in here. As far as the uniform combo, he's going to go with blackout with the Hellraiser, which, there's been some wins in the uniforms the last couple of weeks. Nice combos. He also, unfortunately, is going to take the Pony Riders, 31-20. So, got to ride, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to go with, I want to go with the blackout, but I want to see a blue out. I really do. I think it would be awesome. I think it would be great. I still think the Hellraiser, though. I mean, I do like the Gothic idea, but the Hellraiser, it's got some wins in it. I think we stay with it. And I'm trying right now, I'm towing the homer and the realist. And that is where I stand on picking the score. As a homer, I don't ever want to pick against Duke. As a realist, I do kind of believe Brian and Jamie do have, are half right. But I don't get paid to be a realist. I get paid to be a homer, dadgummit. So I'm going to pick the Blue Devils to win because that's what I do. And if we lose, hey, who cares? It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go with the Blue Devils winning. I really think if Duke wins, it's not going to be a big score. I don't know if we hit the over-under, to be honest with you. I think Duke has to win 27-21. Yeah, we'll say 27-21 Duke. And, yeah, I like the blue out with the Hellraiser on it.
Wait a minute, Brian. Scott gets paid? He said he gets paid to be a homer. Dang. We need to talk to some sponsors. We got to talk to the sponsors.
Golly.
They must be backdooring Scott some money. But no. Okay, so I love the idea of the blue out as well. I love white out, blue out. Like I love both of those. And since we have a blue out with the Gothic, we have a blue out with the Hellraiser. I'm going to go blue out with the big white D. And I think that'll be, we'll see. And even though I do think there's also validity in what Jamie said, that Coach Diaz has told us if they're riding a hot hand and they want to keep wearing a uniform, he's going to let them do what they want to do. So we could see the blackout Hellraiser again, I love the blue black from this past week. So anyway, Scott, I'm with you, man. Low scoring. Listen, if Duke is to win this game, their defense is going to have to show up and going to have to shut down that offense. That's just, there's no way around it. And so with that being said, I'm going to pick a Duke win, but I'm going to pick a Duke win at 17-14. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be kind of a boring offensive game, and Duke's going to do just enough on the defensive side of the football to win it. 17-14, your Blue Devils. So
we're split right down the middle.
Yep.
Me and Jamie went SMU, and you guys went with Duke. And hey, again, I will happily eat crow next Monday night if Duke can go 7-1. I just prove me wrong.
It's tough. It's tough. No, it's tough.
Is.
I completely get it. Completely get it. Well, it's been a good episode. We definitely missed Jamie. I know he's. Oh, go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
So one more thing, a couple weeks ago, a month ago at the Chapel Hill College game, we brought some bleed blue shirts. We're going to bring the rest of them that we have. Now, I'm going to go ahead and preface this, and I apologize up front. The largest size we have are XLs, so forgive us. But we do have some free bleed blue Section 17 shirts, small, medium, large, and extra large. We'll have them there at the tailgate, free of charge. If you'd like to give a donation, then hey, that'll help me get my pay that I just referenced a few minutes ago that, nobody else knows about. So, hey, you want to slide a 20 in my pocket for a shirt, God bless you. But seriously,
Look it up.
So, yeah, we're going to have those with us. Put them out on the table like we did last time. They'll be in shirt sizes. Grab a couple if you want. That's fine. Just as long as somebody Duke fan is wearing it, I'm happy with it. Nothing to throw darts or anything like that at. So.
Yep, awesome. And we appreciate Scott taking care of all that. And yeah, pick up a shirt. I've been seeing more and more of those being worn around. They're great shirts. Eric mentioned his. We hooked him up. I think his was the gray one, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, rocking the Section 17 gear, we appreciate it for sure. But it's been a good episode. We missed Jamie. Shout out to Stephanie, his wife, as we refer to her as the CFO. And happy birthday to her. They're out celebrating tonight. But Jamie will be there. We'll all four be there Saturday. And looking forward to, seeing what Duke has for this SMU team. So I think we've taken care of business, Brian. You want to take us out of here, man?
Absolutely. Another great episode in the books. It's going to be a fun night, a human being night, not day, but night, 8 o'clock. If you can't make it, ACC Network, Wes Durham and crew will be on that call. So maybe we can see Wes while we're there. But for Scott Medlin, for Josh Cox, for the absent Jamie Holt, and producer Tyler Witt, I'm Brian Kennedy, and this has been another episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast.